Who has more debt to GDP ratio, United States or China? These are the two G2, right? Well, the answer is going to surprise you. And not only that, who is performing worse and who is going to be heading down is also hinted here. You can take a look at the numbers, also references, and how do these two compare with India? And we are going to take a look at that one also. A small infographic for you and a request as always to like this video. Here we go. Who was Parashurama, who led a life of devotion, dedication, and daring? Why did he take birth on the earth? Was it to eradicate corrupt Kshatriya rulers who had become tyrannical and oppressive, or was it to bestow daya for the needy? China's debt explosion versus the United States. What has been the story since COVID? Well, the first big reveal is that China has taken on more debt than any other major economy since 2008. The US debt curve has actually flattened, whereas China's continues to go up vertically. And this is something that China routinely underplays, which means what you are seeing here is basically what is available on official record. Chances are that things are much, much worse. How did things come to here? We'll come to that in just a minute, but let's take a look at the numbers. If you look at China in 2008, the debt to GDP ratio was 135%. What is it today? 287%, a rise of 153%. It's the steepest rise in modern history. And how does the US compare with that? US in 2008 was 232%, but since then it has gone up a little bit to 249%, and it's a 7.2% raise. However, what happens is the curve starts falling after 2021. Remember, we're looking at the aftermath of COVID. That's the point. And if you look at the same thing with respect to India, India is at 56.1%. It's nothing. And in fact, they plan to bring it down to 50% by 2030. See, this is where being conservative with your money really helps. Especially, we always talk about India not helping its middle class during the COVID times. But the fact that India kept its money supply tight has actually come out better now. Although I still feel that India could have done a little bit more for the middle class during COVID time. That's just my personal opinion. Now, what really happened? Why did the debt in China skyrocket? Well, their solution to any crisis is to add on more debt. Lockdowns because of COVID, the economy completely froze and a heavy stimulus was required. Then what happened? Evergrande and Country Garden, both big real estate companies, they both collapsed, and they also overproduced like mad. You know that EVs, they have produced a lot, like 5 times perhaps what they needed, and a lot of those things are sloshing about in various ports in Europe trying to find a place that you can park and sell. This we are talking about BYD, of course. And then solar, same thing, they overproduced it. Batteries, they overproduced it, and chips, they overproduced it. And this does not even begin to explain what happened to steel. I've told you in a previous monologue that they built steel sheets 9 times the round trip distance to moon. And this is unbelievable. Why do you want to produce so much? Because they wanted to put every other country's steel industry out of business. See, this is how China goes about doing its wolf industry, I call it. They don't take any prisoners. And this is basically going to come and haunt them, because in order to do all this, what did they do? They took all the supply that was available in the market and went about building products that people did not want. And many of them also are of faulty quality. We've talked about BYD. I don't know how much we did in English, but in Hindi, we have an Endgame series. It has even crossed 100 episodes. So we know that China has taken several missteps. And on the other hand, the United States shows promise. What is United States doing? In the United States, post-COVID, the debt has been flat. What happened was, even though the stimulus was massive, households and corporates have deleveraged. That means they are taking on less risk. Inflation and growth has reduced the debt to GDP ratio, and only the government debt expanded. And that I told you, it's also called the sovereign debt. We've done several episodes on this, the 30-year treasury bonds, what happens, and so on and so forth. So US is trying to find its way back post-COVID into a more responsible economic situation. Although the number is still high, I think it will go down in the months and years to come. At the same time, what is happening here is exactly what the United States did to USSR. In the 1980s, mid-80s, I've told you about this on a monologue, how USSR was forced to sell the Ural crude at a lower price, like unbelievably lower price. Like I think 1 month or so it came down to $8 a barrel, $8 a barrel in the global market, because OPEC and other countries were overproducing at that point, and this was basically a US ploy to force the USSR economy into ruin. And that's how they were forced to get out of Afghanistan. They allowed the unification of Germany. Essentially, they also allowed the breakup of USSR. Will China break up because of an economic defeat? I don't know. But China is a little bit more difficult competitor than Russia. But I see a similar strategy being used by US. But US also is not as strong as it used to be in the 80s. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.